Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Saul K here with a very special guest. I'm so honored and humbled to be of service today and create this podcast. And without further ado, let me edify the man properly. Rabbi Gershom Sizomu is the chief rabbi of the Abayudaya community of Uganda and serves as the Av Beit Din, the head of rabbinic conversion for sub-Saharan Africa. He's a third-generation rabbinic leader of the community, and his grandfather was an apprentice of the founder, Semei Kakungulu. Rabbi Gershom studied at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies from 2003 to 2008, including a year at the Shechter Institute in Jerusalem. He's father to 5 children, ages 7 to 29, and splits his time between Kampala, the capital of Uganda, where he was also a parliament member from 2016 to 2021, and Mbale, the hub of the Jewish community in the East Country near the Kenyan border. Rabbi Gershom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to see
you.
So I'm super excited. I mean, I can't even tell you how excited I am to just be in your presence. We just played some music together. And for people that aren't familiar with you, tell a little bit about your childhood growing up and what was life like for you?
I grew up in a Jewish community of Uganda, which many of you might have known, started in 1919 by Semei Kakungulu, who circumcised himself and his sons and began to observe the laws of Torah, rejecting Christianity from the outset and calling himself and his followers Abayudaya, which means the people of Judah. So I grew up during Idi Amin's time, which was very difficult, because when Idi Amin took power in 1971, he forbade Judaism, outlawed Jewish practice, and we were not allowed to identify with any Jewish symbols, not even the kippah. So growing up as a child, it was quite difficult. Discrimination and anti-Semitism was at the top. We only prayed for safety because anytime Idi Amin would probably pick us and kill us like he did to many people. He killed the bishop of the church of Uganda. Imagine. And when that happened, everybody in our community got scared. And we lived in fear. But we also prayed for his overthrow because a war broke out between Tanzania and Uganda. And that war was because Tanzania was supporting Ugandan rebels. So we prayed, and Amin was overthrown on April 11, 1979, which happened to be Passover. And from the first time, I was in the synagogue for the first time and celebrating freedom from Idi Amin. It was double freedom. So as I always say, we drank double 4 cups of wine, which means 8 cups of wine and over. So that is my childhood. I chose to become a rabbi on that Passover of 1979. As at the age of 9, I told my grandfather that I would want to be a rabbi. And he immediately announced to the crowd at the Seder, and the people began to call me rabbi as a name. So in my passport, you will find that it is not Gershom Sizomu, it is Rabbi Gershom. So growing up, even fellow kids would say rabbi, my fellow students, they would call me rabbi, and that was my name since childhood. But then I had to fight to get my name officially put on me. And that happened when I came to Rabbinic school in 2003 and studied for 5 years, courtesy of Bechol Lashon, an organization here in the Bay Area in San Francisco that paid for all my living expenses, tuition, and everything. And they have done wonderful things in Uganda that are not only shared by amongst the Jewish community, but with our non-Jewish neighbors, the Christians and Muslims. So that is a quick background of who I am.
Okay. Got it. Nachon. So when you were a kid, obviously when you were 9, Idi Amin was overthrown. You guys celebrated Passover, had 8 cups of wine. And was it from that moment forward you were able to freely practice in your community, and you were able to open shuls, or to talk about that, like how it actually worked in your community?
Absolutely. The new government, after the defeat of Idi Amin in 1979, declared freedoms, and freedom of worship was included.
Okay.
And since then, we've been free to practice, although under difficulty, because there were some remnants of Amin's mentality that doubled as local political leaders. And so along the way, they harassed us. I was jailed for teaching music to kids.
Wow. How old were you?
I was, that was 1989, and I was 20 years old. So I and 3 others were jailed for helping to strengthen and give knowledge and empower our children, our younger people. So that was after Idi Amin.
How long were you in jail for?
We were jailed for 4 days, but jails in Uganda are like hell, you know. No bathroom, no nothing. So it is so filthy. And you are, as a child, a young man of 20, you are in that situation where they don't even feed you. It was so bad. But the more they threatened us, the more strong we became. And we started today with my Haverutas, Rabbi Rory Matskin and Rabbi Ilana Ziloni. And, we were talking about Sadiqim have to endure pain and suffering in this world in order to be in the world to come. And we think that the pain and suffering and the challenges do strengthen our character. And it is good for people to have that. We go through pain, through fire, in order to harden our character, which is our Jewish character.
Absolutely. Diamonds are pressed through crushing of coal,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And Abraham was tested 10 times, and many other examples.
Exactly.
Okay, so beautiful. So you covered my first 8 questions in the first 5 minutes. So I want to rewind a little bit and unpack a couple things, because it's really fascinating for us to learn about your community, right? And so how would you compare how Judaism is expressed in your community practice versus what you've experienced here in North America? Any differences that would be interesting to note?
So originally our community was biblical. So without rabbinic tradition.
Okay.
And so rabbinic Judaism has been adapted, but at a slower pace. We in the past used to do like a Paschal sacrifice for Pesach, the Kurban Pesach. We did observe the laws pertaining to the temple.
With one particular synagogue, or
everywhere? Everywhere in Uganda, we used to do, before the rabbinic tradition, we did not know about the Seder. Wow. We didn't know about Hanukkah, for instance.
Yeah, that's totally right.
It is not in the Bible.
Right.
And we actually knew that meat and milk cannot be eaten together, but chicken, we did not know. Because it's also rabbinic.
Yeah.
It's also rabbinic. And we did not have the lulav, and we don't still have the lulav.
For Sukkot?
For Sukkot, like the Arba Minim, I mean, we might have the lulav, but then the etrog, the hadas, the arava, those must come from specific plants,
right,
grown in Israel, not in Africa. So we still have some missing links, but we are, after I went to rabbinic school, rabbinic Judaism was fully adopted by my community, and we can call ourselves Talmudic Jews.
And so that's as of 2008, you were ordained?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
so you got ordained, you came back, you said, okay, we're going
Some
rabbinic.
changes. Yes, yes.
And everyone was on board?
Yes.
Yeah?
Everybody was on
Because
board.
they've known you
And
your whole
Rabbinic
life.
Judaism made life easier. For instance, women in Nida were not allowed into the synagogue. Now, Rabbinic Judaism permitted women to come to synagogue and to participate in the service.
Yeah. Now, I do have a question for you about that, because for the Shalosh Regalim, you would essentially, one would think, in temple times, go to Jerusalem, right?
Yes.
So how did you work that out within your community in the pre-Rabbinic Judaism era?
We had our center, the main synagogue, and that one acted as Jerusalem. So every Shalosh Regalim, people would walk from the different villages and communities and come together. To the present day, we have people who still walk and come to our main synagogue for the Shalosh Regalim, including even Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
How far are people coming from?
For Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we have people coming from nearby because it is easier that way. But for Pesach, we have come people from Kampala, from northern Uganda, which is over 200 kilometers away from the center. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm fascinated to hear about this because I just learned this right now. So you would do essentially like one Korban Pesach for the whole community?
Yes.
Must have been a large animal.
Yeah. Just a sheep.
Just one, okay.
But Korban Pesach, you don't eat.
I understand, yes.
But then we had some other
but then you had
that you had they used to roast.
Yes.
Because Pesach says don't
eat the Korban. Wow, that's so fascinating. Okay, so now another question about that. So you said the lulav with the different species, because you're supposed to get them from Israel. So was it because you just weren't able to import them from Israel to use them, or because why did you not use them? I guess is my question.
In the past, before Rabbinic Judaism, we didn't know what they were, because the Torah says you shall take for yourselves branches of beautiful trees, and the rabbis had to define and agree on which one was a beautiful tree, which was actually the etrog. And the branches of one other tree, palm trees, that one is easy. That's why I said lulav. Lulav means palm tree. That one was easy, but the trees of hadas and aravat were not clear until the Rabbinic tradition.
It's so fascinating. I mean, to within one's lifetime to go from strictly Torah observant Judaism to Rabbinic, and it's incredible. It's unique. It's a unique story.
That's true.
It's amazing. So now, what about in terms of life now there, in terms of practice or the community? How would you compare anything that you guys are doing similarly or differently in terms of what you've experienced here in North America?
We actually have, as I said, adapted Rabbinic Judaism. We have synagogues, 9 synagogues in total, and we have Torah in them. Our people read Torah. Our children are prepared for Bar Mitzvah, for Bat Mitzvah. And we have schools, regular Hebrew schools, that our kids go to learn Hebrew and Judaism alongside mathematics and science. And we have a women organization, a youth organization, men's club. All these are active in our community. Brotherhood, exactly. And so we could say we are a functional Jewish community in the heart of Africa.
I love it. So I was going to ask you a question. In terms of your own personal Jewish journey, why did you choose conservative Judaism?
We had a visit by a Reform rabbi.
Okay.
And my grandfather was still alive. Our community started as a strict Torah community, which you would say by practice and by observance, it was almost orthodox. Strict Torah. And so when a Reform rabbi came, he said, Reform Jews are free, have a choice either to observe Torah or not, which was contrary to the spirit of the founders of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so my grandfather said, no, we cannot convert to Reform.
Mm-hmm.
But then we heard and we learned that there was a in-between movement that would make sure that Torah is observed strictly.
Mm-hmm.
Observance is done, but also allows for some innovations here and there. And we thought that would be good as a younger generation. We cannot be just strict but some flexibility, for instance, in terms of women participating in the growth, in the teaching, in the learning, in the leading of our community. We thought that the conservative movement had that good mix of observance on one hand, but also flexibility on the other, within the boundaries of halakha and Torah.
Got it. Okay, beautiful. And it's so interesting because in America, we were talking, over lunch that we live certainly in the Bay Area, this very pluralistic world. People float back and forth between Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Lubavitch over the course of this coming Shabbat, albeit 4 different types of Jewish communities and Kol Beseder, right?
Yes.
And so I'll be interested to see over the next 100 years how pluralism develops
within the Jewish community.
For sure. And in Africa too, right?
Yes.
As people learn. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about music because I have many musical questions for you. So
Yes.
First question, how
Yes.
old were you when you wrote your first song? And what was it, if you remember?
I remember that I am the one who wrote Lecha Dodi. I loved it. And that was Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala.
Oh.
Bene Shabbat Nekabela. So that was 1981, 82, 83. So
you were like,
we had a transition from Idi Amin,
okay.
because Idi Amin had almost the outlawing of Judaism had discouraged so many people, and so we wanted a comeback, especially for the youth. We wrote simple songs that could be easily sung, people could easily learn and participate in the service and identify with it. So we had that transition from 1981 to 1983, and so I must have written Lecha Dodi in 1982. After my bar mitzvah, and
you're like 13. Wow, your first song was a hit.
Yes, exactly. And I told you I was arrested teaching those very songs to other children.
There is a great historical precedent for Jewish teachers getting arrested for teaching Judaism. So you're following a long line of rebellion in that regard.
And that makes me proud that the arrest did not discourage me. But only encouraging me.
Absolutely. Okay, Lecha Dodi. And so your community's released several albums, musical albums, right? One which was nominated for a Grammy, but there was one before that. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. And what I found fascinating, you can talk a little bit about this so people can understand. So when I heard those first albums, I thought to myself, wow, this is like Adoni Olamu, like they're adding some vowels. And what I wondered was, maybe this is a new form of Yiddish, which could essentially be a coming together of, could be German and Hebrew, or Spanish and Hebrew, or maybe it was African and Hebrew. That's what I thought initially. Oh, maybe this is a hybrid language. But then today you're telling me it's actually no, it was just the Africanization of the Hebrew language.
Yes.
And then what I was fascinating to hear today was that it's changed over time. So just talk a little bit about that.
So because Ugandan languages, mostly the Luganda that we speak, and the Bantu, like related dialects, all of them have a vowel at the end of each word.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say any word without a vowel at
You
the
couldn't
end.
say my name. It'd be Saulu.
Yeah, Saulu. Saulo. Actually, they say Saulo. Yeah.
Okay.
They put it O at the end.
Okay.
And even
So like shalom.
Shalomu. So it was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what informed our Hebrew as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to rabbinic school,
Mm-hmm.
I was taught in an ulpan by two wonderful Israeli teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And they made sure I don't pronounce Hebrew words with vowels at the end, because that could change the meaning. Singular can become plural if you put U at the end of it. So we learned how to do sounds in Hebrew, and I went back, taught members of the community, and that cultural influence over Hebrew we are getting over it.
Okay. I thought it was beautiful. I didn't see it as a negative at all, but I was fascinated on the,
it would make Uganda, our community unique.
Yeah, it's the history of the etymology. Okay, beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, there's a couple things that I want to cover as well before we wrap up here. And obviously you experienced anti-Semitism growing up. I mean, you were arrested, you had this whole thing. Like, what is it like there now? Certainly given the current climate of what's happening in the world. Have you noticed anything? Has it changed? Is it not in your area anymore?
We have worked towards Tikkun Olam. Every time I come to the US, I fundraise for something. For instance, I fundraised for drilling of clean water because you could die drinking water from open wells. I fundraised for a clinic, of course, through Bechol Lashon. Now, I also fundraised for mosquito nets and other projects that help improve life. Okay. That's why I call it Tikkun Olam. And what is interesting that we opened up our progress to our non-Jewish neighbors, creating peace in the name of peace. And we wanted that hatred and bigotry to disappear by way of love and peace. Love and peace can sort of dissolve hatred and bigotry. And it has worked in Uganda. Amazing. It is the reason why I became a member of parliament. People looked at how we received them and how we talk to them and how we share. And they said, I think he's the best person to be a member of parliament. And actually, when I went to parliament, I brought electricity to 400 villages, bought an ambulance so that people who were in emergency could go. So instead of money for the car, they give us money to buy cars. I said, I don't need a car, an expensive car. So I bought a less expensive car. And most of the money balance from the car payment was turned into an ambulance and has saved lives.
Amazing. Amazing.
So that has helped improve our image and relationship with our neighbors.
That's amazing. What else did you learn from being in parliament? You were there for 5 years?
I was there for 5 years.
And what did you learn, and would you do it again now?
I know that going to Parliament of Uganda mostly is to use your position to lobby government and other organizations to work for our people, because government has limited resources. Those resources are redirected according to their. But now, we, as a member of parliament, we tell them, listen, there's suffering here. We need to do this and that.
You just mentioned when you come here, you fundraise. Are you fundraising for something right now that we can know about and possibly contribute to?
Yes.
And tell us about that.
Actually, our community has been subsistence farming since its inception, because most of our people did not go to school for fear of converting to Christianity. Schools were run by missionaries, and missionaries required people to convert to Christianity. As a result, they boycotted school and resorted to farming. Subsistence farming is a pain because we all depend on rain. There's no mechanization. And if there is a drought, or if there's too much rain, crops fail and people really suffer. So I thought that our people need to transition from that economy, the subsistence economy, to a commercial economy. And we have created a microcredit program. That program is providing almost free interest loans to members of the community, and later to the non-members of the community, if our people can be established economically. So we provide loans of at least $1,000 for an individual who wants to start a small business. And then we see how that progresses. If the business is successful and they come for more, the microcredit can provide more funds as they pay back in little bits, and those little bits can be given to another person. So it is an ongoing project.
Amazing. Okay, so here in the Bay Area, $1,000 is like 2 trips to Whole Foods.
Yes.
So give us a sense of what can $1,000 do in Uganda for someone starting a business, so we know the impact.
Exactly. So it can start a business, for instance, $1,000 can start a chicken business, like broilers, chicken for meat.
Okay.
And somebody can start that business with about 200 chickens that can be sold after 1 or 2 months, and he or she gets a profit on that amount.
Amazing.
Yeah. And my colleague and friend and mentor and Rabbi Richard Kamras, who is a rabbi at Hamakom, Los Angeles, is in charge of this trip and this fundraising for microcredit program. He has established a link, which is Hamakom LA, hamakomla.org. And if you go there and you want to support our community transition, you must designate that donation or gift to Abayudaya Microcredit.
Okay, great. And we'll have links below where you can do that.
Exactly.
And do you guys have a specific goal you're raising for right now, or is it more kind of ongoing?
Actually, we have, because the community is big, every fundraising we are thinking about maybe 10 people.
10 people, as in $10,000?
Yes, like $10,000 that can be given to 10 people to do a business. So last time we gave 10,000. We gave to 10 people.
Okay.
And we are also going to give, if we get some money this trip, we can give to 10 people like that.
Amazing. So if you're listening, there'll be a link below on the YouTube or the podcast, and definitely give as you're able. It's the season of miracles. And last night we lit the first night of first candle for Hanukkah, and we sat around in our family, sat around telling stories of miracles that have happened in our lives.
Exactly.
And it was amazing. So give us a bit of the Torah about Hanukkah.
Yeah, Hanukkah is a celebration of victory of the powers of good over the powers of evil. And this is what we've been struggling about as Jewish people. Every generation says in Haggadah Passover, it says that in every generation they have tried to eliminate us, like Karoteinu. But Hakadosh Baruch Hu has always been on our side. And this is the theme of living as a Jew. Whether you are in Uganda, Israel, or the United States, there is that threat. And it could be anti-Semitism, it could be war, terrorism like in Israel, it could be assimilation, like in the US and other places, even in Uganda. that could lead to the extermination of the Jewish people. But we have to resist it. And you know that the story of Joseph begins in Pesach, because he did not face a threat from being killed. His threat was assimilation. He was in Egypt. He became a king of Egypt, and he married an Egyptian woman, the daughter of Potiphar. There was a risk that Ephraim and Manasseh wouldn't be Jewish, or even Joseph. But then he resisted. And it is the same as the Maccabees, who were faced by war, whereas Joseph was faced by the threat of assimilation. The Maccabees were faced by the threat of war. And, we have to resist those forces of evil so that we can survive. And we pray that God should always be on our side.
Amen. Amen. Beautiful. Okay. Final question. I certainly would love to sit and speak to you for another few hours, but we know you're very busy and you've come a long way to deliver some light to our community. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So what do you feel the Jewish world needs now most, and why?
We are in a difficult situation where everybody is demonstrating against Israel over Palestine, as if Israel started this war. The war was started by Palestine, but then Israel is now considered to be more evil than those who started the war. I think it is time to pray for peace. It is time to pray that the forces of evil can be defeated. And of course, we sympathize with families of innocent Palestinians who have unfortunately died in a war, because war does not discriminate. It kills frogs, birds, cats, dogs. So that happens, and it is unfortunate that war happened. So it is in my prayer that a peaceful resolution be reached, and that the forces of evil be defeated. That's what Jewish people all over the world need now.
I can hear that song. Well, I really appreciate your time. And as always on the Holy Sparks podcast, I want to end with a blessing. So Hashem should bless you that your current mission with fundraising for microloans should be overfunded, right? And from that ripple, every person is their own world, and from every ripple of good deeds, it should ripple out into the community, creating goodwill between both you and your neighbors there in Uganda, but between you and our communities here. And that your music should be sung for generations to come. And Hashem should bless you with safe travels, safe coming and safe going, and to keep bringing the light that we so desperately need.
Amen, Selah.
Amen. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Okay. See you on next week's episode. Happy Hanukkah. God bless.
Hanukkah.